There we go. The stream's working now. Okay, so let's start with the one you won, which is that the 9 minutes one against Iron J?
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Oh, I've got it done. That's fine.
Okay, I guess we just got an engine update, so.
Yeah. There we go, that's fixed. And on Discord, I'll just put over so it's actually streaming the right window. There we go. Okay. So I remember in the thread you said that you don't really remember the game too well.
This one I do, because this is a
This
new
one
now. I think so.
Battle started.
Okay.
Yes, this is the new one.
So how'd the game go? And I'll just have it playing through at free speed in the background.
So this one went pretty well. I thought this game went basically exactly how I tried to like win the exact strategy that I tried to play with and win with, in that my goal basically in every game is to try to get a map advantage with units.
Yeah.
And force my opponent to play defensively so that I can just win with air. More or less. I want to force my opponent to overinvest into other things so that I can here I was doing some kind of aggressive microing, so that's why I'm idle in my base.
Okay.
So yeah.
Do you think that was worth it?
Yeah, I think that might. I'm not sure.
How many seconds were you idle for in your base?
Probably 5 to 10. Maybe not 5, probably 5 minutes.
How long does it take a commander to build a max?
Is it 500 build? Is it 5 seconds? Is it 500, 1500?
I would check, but the widget is crashing.
Here, I'll check.
Interesting.
Oh, it's 1800, so it's
1800, 6 seconds.
A max.
That doesn't seem worth it to me. You denied. Okay, he's maybe using a constructor which is taking longer, but your commander and all 3 constructors and your factory were all idle. That's more build power over time than it takes to build that metal extractor that you killed. Not only that, this is probably I don't know if I'll get into this later because I haven't seen the game yet, but something I'm thinking I would be likely to get into for a player about your rating is the idea that you want to keep as many units alive as possible. Even though this might have been a positive trade for you, killing that metal extractor, most of the value in a tick is in its vision. And so, even though it's 20 metal for that tick against, 50 metal for that metal extractor, plus however long it was dead for, and before it was successfully rebuilt, you could have got more value from that tick by keeping it alive and scouting around, rather than by taking it in there, killing a max, and idling all your build power. Does that seem reasonable?
So, yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
So I think that I made a decision when I did that. If you note, I have 3 cons. If I'm remembering now, I think what happened is I saw that my opponent went for a really slow start, and so I decided to go in on. So I went and suicided the tick, and then went in on cons really fast. That was my. That's
fair. Yeah. I would just make the change to that. Don't suicide the tech, especially not if it's gonna take time to micro it.
Mhm.
Alright, let's keep going. I like that point about building a bunch of cons because you see that he's
He started with Freon.
Yeah. I might encourage you with the constructors to be more proactive about sending the constructors out, and getting that construction turret up earlier. The reason I'd say get the constructors out is because they can walk, but the construction turret can't. So on a map where wind generation is higher, a construction turret has more efficient build power than a constructor does. If what you need is build power. Constructors have a little bit of energy generation, so they can overall be a little bit more efficient than construction turrets if you're building solar collectors. But if you're building wind generators, you'll generally find that construction turrets are a more efficient use of your resources. Especially on an incredibly high wind speed map like this. And so you could just have those constructors come out earlier and just have one in each direction. I do like that you've immediately got one constructor building wind generators. But I'd also say that you have probably about 50% extra energy for what you need with the current... Oh, that's a bug. Fine. My cursor's just flicking between two cursors really fast when I hover over the resource bars.
Oh.
Yeah. So your target for building pawns and constructors is about, you want 15 energy production per metal production. And that's a pretty, that's consistent between the two. If you're building metal extractors and winds, that's a bit less energy requirement. Laser towers also have a slightly lower energy requirement, but generally, because most of what you're building has got to be these pawns, that's kind of what you're thinking for that. So in that sort of a case, you do want to kind of keep building these wind generators, but you don't necessarily want to build them so fast. And because right now you've got, 50% more energy income than you need. You probably need about 200 energy income at the moment. That would only be like 4 extra wind generators that you haven't built, but that 4 extra wind generators is 3 and a bit extra pawns in terms of metal. I do like the energy storage on such... That is a relatively high volatility on the wind.
Yeah, I kind of rushed it on.
Yeah.
On this.
Yeah. I'd probably, this early in the game, I'd probably make more advantage of just modulate what you're building as to your energy income. So you've got about this a 10 to 25. That's the kind of thing you can go between, say, building pawns which cost pawns which cost 15 energy a second, to, if wind's low, then you stop building pawns and you build wind generators when the energy's low. Or something like that you can aim for, and that can modulate your income a little bit better, but that requires a lot more active micro of your build power, and so for the energy storage is another way, a much easier way to smooth that out. Yeah. This is good, fairly good raid coverage over here. I don't know if you saw that raid that just happened with a few pawns that went in and died there. There's been a lot of raiding around here, and by the looks of it, we see 1, 2, 3 dead blue pawns. We've got 1, 2 dead red pawns over here. what I'm kind of seeing out of this, this fight over here, less so any raid and killing over here. This again is a situation where you've killed 3 and you've lost 2, which is sort of a positive trade. But it's not great for you because you lost 2 pawns here, and I probably want to encourage you to focus on losing even few of those pawns, being a bit of a KDA player in that sort of sense. Only fighting, like if you're fighting a situation where you kill 3, lose 2, you're sort of fighting on the knife edge where you're doing roughly equal damage to the enemy. I want you to, if you're really gaining an advantage out of a fight, the best thing to do is fight in a situation where you kill a bunch of units and don't take any damage yourself. And so the best way to do that is by just sheer outnumbering the enemy. So like what happened over here, you had 3 pawns run in here, and I believe that's your pawn because you had 4. And he's got these 9 units here, right? And those 3 pawns don't even deal 3 pawns worth of damage. You see that? But they all die. This is how outnumbering the enemy works, and this is one of the big reasons it's important to keep things alive. The more things work together, the more efficient they are. And so you can get more value out of things by keeping them alive and having a larger number of them. And each additional unit that you have alive makes every single other unit you have more efficient, if used properly.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So this constructor here. Okay, we get the conversion. Is what you're doing here is you're adding on conversion capacity as well as your wind generation capacity. But I'd probably say the reason you can afford these converters is because you don't have any energy. Is because you're not using your metal, and part of these converters is going to use a bunch of your energy and no metal. Wind is low, and wind average is almost double the energy. So at the average wind speed, yeah, you would have enough energy, but I would probably in this case again encourage you to build storage when the wind storage to carry that out, and not continue overbuilding these wind generators. If we kept at a more average wind speed, we could save an amount of metal in wind generators. That would be additional pawns. Additional pawns goes from what looks like is a reasonably even army. You've got 14 pawns against 9 pawns and a Centurion. Yeah, that's a reasonably even army, and he's got an advantage if you count that. So your pawns can't really do anything except maybe a bit defensively because he outnumbers you up here. What you want to be doing is focusing on putting out more pawns rather than overscaling your wind generation. You don't want to scale in relation to the amount of metal extractors you're building, but you want to scale it a little more proportionally. Build a few more pawns. Use that metal in storage, because this is 3,400. That's about 4 pawns worth of energy sitting right there that you could have built, and that would bring you down to about 300 metal, and then that would mean you have like almost a perfectly balanced use up all your metal, use up all your energy kind of a thing if just building pawns. And that puts you in a position where you can immediately just run this down. And then these additional constructors again would probably be much better spent because of just grabbing these metal extractors over here and coming along there.
In the middle of something. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I missed that, Max. Looks like.
Yeah, but you also, because you've got sort of two lines of metal extractors along here. You've got one line there that your commander's walking on. You've got another line there that a constructor could walk along, and it's like, it's tough because that's a really long time for a constructor to walk. It spends like a full 20 seconds walking out to that max, and then once it spends 20 seconds building it, then it's another full minute to walk out to this metal extractor. And so that's really tough in terms of expansion. But if you're gonna have these constructors, you are using the build power in base, and so it's kind of worth keeping them on the factory building just to use up those resources that you have. But if you can get the construction turrets out to free up those constructors, then you can bring them along and build them.
Yeah, this is where things got a little bit dumb. Because, well, you'll see in a little bit why I did this. So I agree with what you said, that basically bottom is a stalemate.
Yeah.
And that.
Okay, so you're going for air and pawns. Okay. Got a bunch. I like the tick scouts up there. We see a raider around here, and this is going to be a boon for you just because you've got 12, he's got 7. And so, done right, what we'll see is that's 1, 2, 3 of his killed. You lost 1, which is great. That's a 100 metal or so swing towards you. And then those others, if they fought, would be cleaned up. I don't know if you could see there in that battle how, like, momentarily, like, there was a bit where you outnumbered him, and so you killed a bunch of units, and then he brought his other units over, and then outnumbered you, and so he killed a bunch of your units. That's something you really need to be paying attention to in those battles. Just to make sure you're getting proper efficiency out of that. And keep in mind with these expansion paths, because looks like you might have used area max or something. You went up there and down there, but you've already been like up here, and so you've kind of done that. So you're backtracking. If you could have grabbed that metal extractor on this way, then that would save you an extra walking distance for like walking up.
Yeah.
And so I like to, I like to do things like if I have multiple cons and I can spare the build power, I'll do something like walk something like that, and then the other constructor will do something like that. That walks more in the, like, there's less backtracking between them, and so it massively saves on the distance you're doing. There is benefit to building all the close mexes before you build the far mexes, but it also means that when you want to send out another constructor to build, a new constructor would have to walk, say this constructor goes and builds all the wrong buttons today. So that one goes on after that and builds those. A new constructor from your factory is going to have to walk for a full minute and a half, maybe more, before it gets to metal extractors to build.
That makes sense.
In contrast, like, yeah,
constructor time.
because keep in mind, it takes a pawn less time than it takes a constructor to walk up to there. For, like, it takes the amount of time it takes a constructor to walk up there, it takes less time for a pawn to walk all the way into his base. And so you'd almost at that point, if you're like close to outnumbering and doing damage, it would be more worth it to just ignore those maxes up there and just keep pumping units over here.
Mhm.
And so it's useful for giving yourself efficient ways to expand. Leave additional expansion paths open for constructors. And so probably the first one up, I probably would get that one, but then I'd walk over to that next.
That makes a lot of sense. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. And make sure you're trying to walk away, so maybe grab those ones and then walk over there. And so an additional constructor, at least it can walk to this one first, then that one, then up to there. It's also a little bit helpful for your vehicle transition, when you're thinking about transitions into something else. If we think about how long it takes to get out there to somewhere, sure, a botcon takes a minute. It's gonna only take 70 seconds for a construction vehicle. That's 30 seconds you save, and across all the metal extractors that constructor might build, that's what, that's a good 75 metal per mex that you earn just by being a vehicle constructor that's driving up there. And a similar thing for this expansion path over there. So that's a consideration. I'm not sure exactly how long an air constructor takes to build a mex, but consider that it would take an air constructor 18 seconds to get up here to build those mexes, where it would take a bot constructor a minute and a half, almost towards 2 minutes, minute 45. So then if that air constructor takes like a minute to build the mex, it's still like faster. But then it's even better to just give yourself the more efficient expansion paths like that.
Yeah. And I had excess cons. So yeah.
Yeah. How much does this build menu not working? It's frustrating. I'll just have to enable like the area mex widget, I think, is why it's crashing. And then I can enable the build menu.
Yeah, so the reason I went air is because I felt like I had won the game at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, I could tell like when I'd scouted my enemy, and I could tell that I had so much more eco than and like map control. And so that was basically my thought. Is like, all right, I can just build like 10 banshees, and my con, you can't touch my con. My con is safe, and I have enough army here to defend, and this game is over.
Right. Keep in mind that in terms of energy cost, you can build like 3 pawns per banshee. So in terms of resource production, here's a cheer. Like, you are on the front line here. You're 3 pawns from outnumbering him. So of course, there's 7 banshees there. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a bit more. If we go 7 banshees, and let's say that's 3 pawns per banshee, 21 pawns, and he has 15 pawns. 21 pawns would already be enough for you to run in his base and kill everything. Because there's no maybe not kill everything, he does have the laser towers, but you wouldn't have to wait for long before you could just take it out. Compared to your banshees, where
I probably would have,
they're sitting there for an extended period of time, not doing anything. Because they can't do anything, because then he'll know you've got air, he'll build anti-air, and they'll be useless. And so the entire time you sit there building them, they're not generating you value, while a pawn can walk straight across the map and immediately start getting you value from killing the enemy pawns. So while it wins you the game, it's like the slowest way you could win the game. Apart from like going from like building even more unnecessary things.
Yeah. So would have like been transitioning vehicles here been better? I probably could have just built a lot of stouts.
No. Transitioning
No?
vehicles here would be tangibly worse.
Okay.
Why? Maybe there's an argument here that given your resource production and balance at this point, Blitz would have been better than Horns, because not sure what is the energy cost of Blitz. Like, you're not so much limited on metal as you are on energy, and so having a vehicle factory that can build Blitz will give you more value for the amount of energy you have. You could make that argument.
Yeah.
But you kind of do have enough energy at this to just keep building pawns. So,
Okay.
because you have enough energy to keep building pawns, they're almost as fast as Blitz, and they deal way more damage. So, just the fact that you would outnumber him means that you don't need extra health, because he has no units to shoot the additional units that you have. So all you need is as much extra damage as you can get. The best damage per cost that you can put out at this point in the game, I think it's technically the Tick, but probably more solidly the Pawn because of its better range. And so, not only that, the Pawn's really fast. It's faster than a Stout, which means it's going to get to the enemy base faster than the Stout, and it's going to kill it faster than the Stout. Maybe if you got to the base and he started throwing up laser towers, then you'd have an argument to put up the Stout. But you can probably put out Pawns at this point faster than he can put up laser towers, so it's not going to be an issue. You'll just be able to walk in, kill the laser towers without them doing much damage, just because you've got so many Pawns.
Okay. So I did the right thing by scaling build power. I just should have not built the air lab. I should have just kept on building pawns.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, you can overwhelm enemies with pawns so fast in a 1v1.
Yeah.
If you get to the point you're at and you're pumping out a pawn literally every 1 second, there's nearly nothing they can do if they're behind.
Yeah.
I'm relatively new, but that's my go-to winning
Yeah.
strategy for one.
Yeah, so there's another principle apart from the fact that helps make this decision here. Banshees don't really help out your pawns at all. They do it not that well. It's like they don't keep the best way to keep pawns alive is by killing the thing that's shooting at the pawns. The Banshee doesn't do that very well, because it's only got 38 damage per second. A Pawn will do that better than a Banshee. Way better than a Banshee. At least twice as well as a Banshee for half the cost. And then it's like, because the pawns on the ground can't even shoot at the Banshee, if you invest in Banshees, all your pawns are just going to sit here doing nothing. So all that investment is moot. If you don't have any pawns, then it's like, but because you already have pawns, you want to exploit the value of the pawns maximally by building more pawns.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Can I ask what you do if they start going like I'm still relatively new, but there's like the Grenadier mech and the missile mech, and I sometimes find that if my opponent in usually a team game, I usually play small team games, but
Yeah.
if my opponent has about the same kind of economy scaling I do, and they use those two in addition to a handful of pawns, I struggle to beat that composition.
So like a Mace and Rocketeer sort of a thing?
Yeah,
These
like
units
they have
here?
like 50% Rocketeers, 25% Maces, and 25%.
Okay. Yeah, I think if you could supply me a replay, that would make it give me something a lot more concrete to talk about in terms of that. But with that kind of composition, you start to, because those units have a similar speed to a commander and are generally used in smaller spaces, which can be controlled better with a laser tower and a sentry. That you generally find you're not just fighting against those units, you're fighting against a bunch of supporting units which can soak up the damage and or deal damage to pawns very quickly, and because pawns don't have a lot of health, they take that damage very quickly. What you want to do against your mace and your rocketeer...
I'll let you finish. I'll
What?
let you finish this analysis.
Yeah.
But I can find the replay.
Yeah, what you want to do against your mace and your rocketeer is you want to get them isolated away from, like, wait basically until they're isolated away from the defensive structures in the commander, and then you surround them and dive on them and all in one go. You want to be very decisive about it. You want to only go in when you're sure you're going to win. You want to take it out all in one go.
Okay, I think we don't even need to go over that.
Yeah.
Because I think I just committed too early and lost any kind of advantage I have.
Yeah. Yeah, a replay could still be useful, but often that's what happens. People commit at a poor time, and then they're behind, and then they keep trying to commit while they're still behind, and not wait until they have some advantage to leverage. Yeah, so see here, Amagini, how there's a ton of waiting that you do with all these pawns, and you probably felt in the moment a little bit like, I'm powerless, like, there's nothing I can do. And that's a very good example of how all of these pawns, defensively, they're somewhat useful, because they, like, reinforce the laser towers and the ones coming out of the base, but aggressively, they can't do anything. And, yeah, then you find the commander and you win.
Battle ended.
Yeah.
Yeah, what happened is I felt some time pressure because in the initial engagement, I won the very first engagement, and then but it was commander versus commander, and I just had more pawns, and I caused his death, but my commander was so low that they both died. And it happened to be kind of closer to his base than mine, so I felt a pressure to control that space so I could at least get the medal rather than letting him just resurrect his commander, and I just committed without having the ability to actually win.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot I could talk about through the replay, but keep in mind that reclaim medal, usually people don't have the energy infrastructure to take advantage of reclaim medal, so it's not as good as some people would think. It's not like 1,000 metal of free units, it's 1,000 metal that you can't use because you only already had enough energy to use the income you already had. Or if they build extra energy income so that they can use that, then that's resources they're down on energy income that give you a chance to strengthen yourself a bit, you know?
But recovering 2 commanders worth of metal means there's talking about only metal because that's all you're getting. You could build 3 or 4 solar collectors because those don't take any energy, and now you're talking about just free resources because you've got the extra metal and you've got solar collectors.
It's not just metal and solar collectors, it's an extra construction turret. And see, that's already 800 metal that you've spent. So you get, what, 10 thugs out of it. And so most people would look at the comrank and go, it's like, oh, he's gifted, 20 thugs. No. 10 at the most. And then even then, it's going to take him time to build those extra solar collectors and those extra constructors. And say, for example, if it's on his side of the map, for example, then that means his army's far away from you, which means it's going to take him time to cross the map to attack you. It also means that, because if it was on his side of the map, there's a little bit of a chance that you have more metal extractors than him, which is going to generate value over time, so that's going to close the gap even further. And if you're building pawns, and he's building the slower, heavier units, those pawns are going to get across the map faster, and so maybe you can't fight him because he's got this really strong army there because he's got the comrade, but maybe you can go somewhere else and find value somewhere else with your pawns, and suddenly his teammate's weak because he got a comrade, and because your teammate has the advantage, then he can come and help you and keep you alive against the maces when they eventually, very slowly come across the map and finally start threatening you. You know?
Oh.
It's not as bad as it sounds. You've just got to identify what are his advantages and what are his disadvantages. What does it cost him to have that medal donated to him? Because it does cost him something. If he changes what he does, he sacrifices something to make use of that medal, you know?
Yeah, that's really good information. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think a lot of new players really have a hard time understanding how time and space, how control over them and how you can use them to pursue a strategy.
Yeah, not just new players, honestly. It took me a really long time to learn those things about pawns against thugs. It was really
saying new
difficult.
players don't fully understand time and space just sounds like super ephemeral is not the right word, but super like physics talk. Like you don't understand space time. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like the purest way to think about build power, it doesn't matter how much metal and resources someone has if they can't spend it on units, you know, and build power.
Oh yeah, and I do
like
understand
the purest
that,
way of thinking. Yeah, and so like you can also think about it in terms of like map space. You know, even if they have units, can they fight your army?
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Well, how would I give you the replay? I haven't done that before.
So either you can, if you found it on the website, you can grab the link and drop that in the somewhere on Discord, probably the Academy chat, and tag me, or probably create a thread for it and tag me or the mentors in that thread. Or you could just
not stored locally.
It is stored locally. So you can look in. Do you know how to find your data directory?
No, but I can. Wait, so I click download. I brought up replay.
Oh, okay.
If you found it on the website, if you just download the file, it should be good. Or you can just, if you found it on the website, you can just.
Yeah. There should be a button like open replays folder or like copy or something. I don't know. Yeah.
If you open replays, there's a button that says download, and it just brought to the website.
Yeah.
It just has
and so on the website you can search your own username in the website and it'll just bring up replays from you, and then you can find the game in there.
Yeah. Here we go. Server link is what I wanted.
No, just the website. Whatever the replay.
Well, I'm on the replay. There's two buttons.
Yeah, no. So once you're on the replay page, just copy paste the link, the URL to that replay page, and send that to me.
Sure.
Yeah, and we can look over that after we get through this other game from Amagini.
Sure.
So the other game, I tried to play it the same way, more or less, but my opponent was a bit better.
Yeah.
Quite a bit better, and it didn't work. Yeah. And so, I don't know, it's kind of interesting.
DM it to you? Sorry to interrupt one more time, but can I just DM it to you?
Yeah, sure. Generally speaking, if you're at some other time, if you're wanting a review from a mentor, the procedure is you go to the Academy chat, create a new thread, and drop it in that new thread. But for now, because I'm just gonna review it after this game, you can just DM it to me, that's fine.
Okay. I hope it's not completely worthless of your time, because I honestly feel like you kind of hit the nail on the head already, but maybe there's some
Yeah.
other information I could.
Yeah, there probably will be, and I can also give you specifics and help you see that. It really helps to go through and get those specifics. So there will be value we can find in that. Alright. So, I'm a genie. One of the pitfalls I'm seeing here, you've got all these constructors helping your factory, and you're scaling up your energy so that you can use this metal that you have initially.
You're not streaming, by the way, so I can't see
I'm
what you're
not.
looking at.
Okay. Oh, because it popped it out in a new window. Okay. Thank you. I shall grab that for
And
you.
you also have the replay pulled up on my screen, but
Okay, cool.
I can't see what exactly you're looking at.
Okay.
Alright.
Alrighty. So, once my computer unfreezes.
I didn't even. I haven't actually
There we
ever
go.
watched this game.
Okay.
So I think what happened here, if I remember in the beginning, I tried to scout with ticks, and I was confused as to where my opponent was because I expected him to start in the corner also.
Yeah.
And so I was a bit confused.
Okay, so I'm just doing a bit of comparison between you at the moment. I'm noticing that this guy has 3, almost 5 additional metal extractors. Now that's related to a few things. Firstly, he's done a 2-mech start, not a 3-mech start, while you've done the 3-mech start. You've built 2 radars rather than 1, and he has 0. Well, no, 1 radar and a laser tower, so that's roughly even. They take about the same resources and time to build. It is different, but roughly the same. Then you've got this energy storage here, and some additional wind generators. You have 7 against his 6. So 1 additional wind generator, building another one, and then you've got the additional energy storage, which is probably comparable to using a bunch of resources. So with the extra max, you've got a little extra metal and storage, and you've also got a little extra energy in storage because you have the additional wind generators and the energy storage that gives you that extra storage, because he's excessed 2,000 energy at this point. So looks like both of you a little bit overbuilt wind. Now, what I'd probably say is you have enough wind generation at this point, unless the wind drops, sort of evidenced by the fact that you've got an energy storage and a bunch of energy in storage. This early in the game, you especially don't want to be having an energy storage, and you just want to be balancing out everything as well as you can. Again, build wind when the wind's low, and build units when the wind's high, kind of a thing. And again, when the wind's low, you don't want to overbuild. Other things you can do that don't cost a lot of energy is that you can get constructors walking out to locations when the wind's low. Things like that. And yeah, an energy storage can balance that somewhat. But right now, at the very least, building additional wind generators in this case isn't great. This commander could have skipped, say, multiple wind generators. Even here in this case, he could have skipped a couple wind generators and still been pumping whatever he's pumping. And then your commander could be on the factory, and instead of these 3 constructors being on the factory, you could have 3 constructors expanding already. And that would just give you a more solid opening. I don't mind
What's that at
keeping
the
the
top for him?
Hmm?
There's like a unit at the top there, like at the top of the lake on the left. There's like a blue dot there.
Yeah, that's a
What is
tick.
Yes.
So that's
Oh,
just
he just sent a
scouting.
tick under the mountain for some
Yeah, and so presumably he assumes Amagini is going to be there. I wouldn't do that kind of out of the way thing. That just delays the value that tick's going to give you. I would just send it straight through there. Kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Sorry, I was just trying to give an idea for myself
Yeah.
of how the game state is.
Yeah. Amagini, also be wary about things like this. This is a really tangible way to measure, like, Commander's gonna walk like that far around. It's slightly faster than a constructor, but you're losing about as much time as you could have another wind generator up and building. Yeah. So 4 constructors is actually a reasonable amount of constructors to have built, in terms of you send one constructor out like that, another constructor out like that or something, and then one up here, one up here. Up here is probably your best expansion path in terms of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, etc. There's a lot more metal up here than out here, and so you want to send the constructors this way first. The other consideration is, if we think about how long does it take enemy to send units across to you, let's just measure that both ways, really roughly with the pawn. It's gonna take enemy about 2 minutes to just base to base with pawns, and so that is actually a really healthy amount of time. That's both directions, by the way. It's actually really reasonable with that to build a large number of constructors and send them out every which way, and initially defend yourself with ticks rather than even pawns, because the ticks are faster, and then you can back that up with pawns that you send out, especially when you've discovered that he's not starting here. He's starting as far away from you as he can. So that gives you a lot of time to that's another way you can consider a slow start, is just distance, and you can send those 4 constructors out really quickly. As for how many constructors, I'd probably say like 2 minutes at 9 metal a second is like 1,000 metal or something. Like, you could get well beyond 4 constructors in terms of what you send out. In fact, you could send out one every which way, and then have another couple constructors just building wind generators, and then you go full units. That's probably how I'd play this in this kind of a case. What size is this map? Let's go back to lobby and see if I can check.
Mind if I ask what rank you are?
Me or Master Bell?
No, yeah, the person being coached, not the coach.
Oh, me. I don't really know what my 1v1 is, because I don't play that many 1v1s. Probably around 20 to 25 from what I'd have to guess.
Okay, yeah, I'm a lot worse,
in
but
team,
I could, yeah.
in team games,
I'm
I'm
just
around
curious what I'm looking at.
32 or so in large team.
Yeah, and I'm sitting
Low-
more around
low
like
30s.
15. I've been playing for 5 days, but I'm trying to get
Yeah, I've been
better.
playing for
I'm
3 years.
coming from StarCraft, so I think I have some advantages, but a lot of disadvantages. Mostly like unit compositions and build order and stuff like that. Not going to even say my mechanics are better than average, but I think it's probably my strongest suit.
There is a lot of room to micro in this game. Let's see, what is the size of this map?
This size
20 by 16.
20 by 16. And so, for context, the distance between your bases is something like the distance between those 2 points on the map. It's roughly the same distance. And so if you're talking like what other maps it's comparable to, that's actually quite big. What's our other large maps, if I can sort by maps? Because you play a lot of team games, right?
Yeah, I mostly play large team.
DSD is actually a really small map. You're sort of talking around the sort of distance you'll have on a map like Star Watcher between bases. Maybe a little further even.
Okay.
It's really a massive distance between your bases. Or Cream Valley, you start really forward. It's like the distance between like the back bases or something like that. Not quite the back bases, but close to it. And that's a crazy distance on Cream Valley between the back bases. So that gives you a huge amount of time to put constructors out in all directions. Awesome, that's working. Yeah, so I like these constructors going out in this way, but keep in mind again, because you're taking a zigzag path to this, it's going to take you a really long time to get the majority of the metal extractors. Especially if you walk back up there and get that laser tower back there. You're maintaining higher energy per second though.
He has so much more metal than me, though. He has like twice as many mexes as me.
Yeah. But that doesn't matter all too much. If you look at it will start to matter more as time goes on, but most of that difference in this game comes in the difference in metal produced, and it's less than, like, if you count this much, the difference in army value more comes in what you've spent than his extra production. So that will scale out eventually, but that's not the big determining factor here. That was a good catch, not to lose all those units there. Fighting units are very strong, they do a bunch of damage while the enemy can't fire back. So this is really strong for you, and if you even see, it's like you're catching up in resources. Here's another great example of his commander having to walk a really long distance this way before it can get to mexes that this constructor isn't building. That's a really long distance for it. That's well over a minute that is walking. And then any constructor coming this way as well. So you've actually got a stronger expansion path on this map, which I would anticipate is better for your expansion in the long run. So I expect that metal produced difference is going to come down rather than get bigger as a proportion. What I don't like is that he's got a bunch of units over here, and your factory waypoint is still up here. Generally what I advise, you send your commander one way and you build liberally with radar so you can see everything coming, and then you send your army the other way, or a ton of constructors so they can build like a bunch of laser towers as soon as an army comes within radar view. Because here you're liable to, if he just chases you down, you lose all that expansion. And then it doesn't matter that you're expanding in 2 directions, because you just lose one of them because you don't defend it.
And I think that's what happens.
Yeah. We do have... Looks like the factory has switched over to this side. I'll emphasize something. Keep your army defending the constructor. stand it right near it, not in the middle of nowhere. Not here, right here. That just, it means you have less reaction that you need to do. It's less spread out, so it's harder for him to pick off stuff. And there's no way for him to just sneak around or something. Your army is already in the position it needs to be. This is a mistake I see a lot of people make.
This is a mistake.
Yeah.
Watching
Never
it
do-
again, I was actually in much better position than I thought I was.
Yeah.
Um,
Never do a factory switch when you're under attack. Or when you're outnumbered, because it's like a similar thing, you know. You have 12 there against 12. Like, it's technically even if you keep all of them alive, and then at this point it's like they're not gonna catch up. But if this gets any reinforcement, which you don't know if there are any reinforcements, like they're not really far away. Any reinforcements, and then he can just kill everything, and all those units are useful. Are useless. You only want to do that kind of a switch to air when all these units are useless anyway. Because the air doesn't help these, and so they're on their own, and if they get outnumbered, they're just all dead immediately, and dead weight, no value to you. This rating up here is alright, but I would group them together so they fight together. If you want to spread out and scout and get new information, techs. Do techs for that. And definitely, like, it looks like you're zoomed out and paying attention across the map, so that's alright, but if your attention is down here, don't be going in up there. You just can't afford that. And these units are gonna get surrounded and picked off one by one, even though you can technically see it, and they just all die. And don't achieve anything. Better if you didn't attack, and put your full attention down here. Excellent that you kept that constructor alive though, and do note you're actually ahead in metal per second at the moment. Why though?
Yeah.
And you're still relatively fine on the metal income, energy income thing. Why are you ahead in metal income by like 100%? Is there some reclaim? Oh, this one reclaimed a wreck, okay. Okay, so it's basically even. Okay.
Dang.
And keeping those pawns alive also. Well, if you see a factory up here, you know pressure's gonna be coming from up there, most likely. This is when I do like a pivot, and these ones start building laser towers here. Don't even push forward and get the mexes, just build laser towers down here and send your factory up here. And you did see that factory with those pawns that died right there, so you know that's happening. And then that allows you to expand a little freer up there as well, but you can also like get a little bit defensive. Other than that, you do kind of know that you have just won a battle here, so you have some freedom right now to attack over here, and just until you meet resistance and be very ready to pull back. Probably scout with scouts ahead. You could definitely get scouts through when he has so few units. How fast would a tick actually get? Like, if you went a tick across, that would take 58 seconds, and then a pawn down from his factory would be 34 seconds. Okay. It's still easier for him to defend. But the other thing with this, what is your plan with the repeat on Banshee?
Same thing in every game. No, what I'm getting out of this is that I could have defended this.
Yeah.
My thought was, my calm is in major danger here. But
Yeah.
what I got out of this is I thought that my opponent had a much better eco position than I did.
Marginal.
And I thought that I was apparently I thought that I was going to get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
easily and shortly. And it's like, okay, like
Yeah.
So
here's the last shot. I'm gonna try and go in with these with yeah, the banshees. But
Yeah.
why? I'm just curious. Why did you think switching like factory types was gonna help? Like, was gonna be like a last ditch effort? Isn't that just gonna set you behind as far
well,
as your ability to push out units?
if you can get like 8 banshees out before your opponent knows, and get them, I knew where my opponent's commander was. I knew that it's very hard to defend against like surprise banshees, and I thought that maybe if my opponent has invested a little bit too much in units, while I'm going to lose in the long run, I might be able to get a short-term advantage in getting some banshees on top of my opponent and maybe get a snipe. But actually, it turns out I could have just kept on fighting with pawns, and potentially.
I see. So it was kind of like an all-in.
Exactly. It was an all-in. It was an attempted all-in.
So, what you might notice right here, your army sizes are basically exactly the same. You have 21 pawns down here. He has 21 pawns and 5 blitz. How many banshees do you have? 5 plus 1 out of the factory, which is similar-ish to the pawns that he has coming down over this side, which, if you noticed his aggression over here, you would have been prepared to just switch everything up here and respond to that aggression. You have everything you need to defend, except these are banshees rather than blitz or pawns or whatever you put out instead of banshees. This feels like an appropriate time to call out the idea of giving up. Just don't do it. Don't try to assume whether you're winning or you're losing, and don't make decisions based on that. Go, like, this is what he's invested in. This is how I most efficiently respond to that. This is what I know he has. This is how much effort I know it'll take. Like, if someone has 10 laser towers, or let's make it more extreme. If someone has 20 laser towers. 20 laser towers is how much does a laser tower cost? 85 metal. So is that not working? Why aren't you working? Why do I always go through this? Meh. Okay. That widget is not working today. So let's say 90 metal for a laser tower, that's 18,000 metal. In order to kill 20 laser towers, you need at least 18,000 metal worth of army. Add 15%, that's 27,000 metal worth of army just to kill the laser towers. Or just to break even with the laser towers, and then you need even more than that to actually kill them, you know? Or for 27,000 approximately 27,000 metal, you could build a Tech 2 factory and then build a unit out of that. And so that's the kind of point where you start making a decision. Or you know, the enemy has a huge army and I have nothing. So the best thing I can do is, because none of the army is anti-air, then I can, if I build 10 banshees for 1,300 metal, that will be able to do more against the 0 anti-air than spending the same 1,300 metal on pawns, which is still smaller than their army and is therefore going to do nothing except die. Does that make sense? That's a better way of framing the entire... You've probably heard the, when you're losing, do like high risk, high reward strategies. No, just rule out all the 0 reward strategies and see what that leaves you with. And a 0 reward strategy, or what here, like, you actually get quite a high reward out of bringing all these armies over here and just building laser towers. You don't even need additional army. You could have additional army, and that additional army would be effective because he has 0 laser towers over here. And a small handful
Even
of
if
banshees.
Yeah. Even if I had just tried to raid, taken the maxes, and tried to take his winds
Yeah.
out, you're going to see shortly that I tried to snipe the comm, which doesn't work. It gets kind of close, but not quite close enough. And if I had just tried to raid this eco instead, it probably would have been fine.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how long, for example, this Whistler has been alive. But you've also got to count, these construction turrets are repairing the commander. And
I should have just ignored the commander.
Also, well, let's not simplify it too much. Keep in mind, you had one more Banshee here the entire time. Our comm might be dead. It's not like you need an extra 50% Banshee because you only killed like 3/4 of him, so you need like 30, like an extra 1/3 Banshees to kill the rest of the way. No. Like, some of the Banshees died pretty much straight away because the comm lasered them to death. But every extra Banshee you add gets extra time laser shooting the comm. And so, every extra Banshee you have, for example, increases the return of you, like, killing those two, for instance. I'm not sure how many Banshees you had, but
So the problem is that it got scouted when the raid went through, and that's why I had to known if the Banshees went through.
Okay, but even if this is how many Banshees you have, even if this is how many Banshees you have, these 2 construction turrets, I don't know if they helped put out that missile truck, but those 2 construction turrets have hardly any health. Let's say they have together, they have 500 health each. They have 200 build power. If we put that to 1 speed and we go, let's go forward 1 second, approximately. That doesn't help. Let's get more complicated with math. At 75,000 build time on the commander, 75,000 build time divided by 400. Wait. Okay, yeah. So it'll take 187 seconds to fully repair that commander with those 2 construction turrets. If we divide the commander's health by I think it's 3750 for a new commander.
I think it's 3700 exactly.
3700. Okay, let's go with that.
So. Or is it 3300?
Don't know. I think it's probably 3700. So
I'm gonna try to guess what you're getting at. That 1 or 2 more Banshees would have overpowered the repair rate of.
Not just that. There is that, but he said he didn't have time because he had warning.
Yeah, so that's the problem, is that as soon as the Banshees are really easy to defend against, so they're only good as a surprise. So as soon as he scouts them, I need to attack immediately, or else all of it's wasted.
Yeah.
Whereas if I attack immediately, then it might not be wasted.
I see.
Yeah.
3,700. I was right. 3,700 health on a fresh commander.
Actually, that's a better thing. So it would. I think what I'm getting at is if you kill those construction turrets, for example, maybe you could have killed the commander.
Yeah, it was kind of tough because I could. So there were also the thing is that there were also. I think that there was 1 or 2 whistlers that had been put out by the time the banshees got there.
Mm.
So I did kill like 1 or 2 whistlers, I believe, with banshees, in his base.
Yeah. There's also
So,
another
so targeting, like,
consideration.
the-
Why are
the
these
whistler
damaged?
versus-
Just because the banshees flew over them?
Yeah, I think that I was debating whether to attack the eco. I think what happened is I was going to just attack the eco,
And then you found
and
the comp?
then the raid. I think that what happened is that my opponent's raid got through and blew up my entire base or something. A lot of my eco or something, and I decided that no, it's actually time for me to all in. I don't remember exactly what I was thinking, but it was something
Let me run it back through and we can have another look at it.
All right.
I'll fix the stream in a moment here. There we go.
Or also, I think
Takes
my opponent
100
had some fighters out at that point or something. It was a little frantic. I couldn't decide what exactly to do, which is not a good thing to do with banshees.
Yeah. Decisiveness is really important.
Mhm.
And did you say that the nanos had 200 hit points each or total between the two of them?
560 hit points each.
They have 200 build power.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
So, because they also repair a commander really slowly with only like 20 health per second. So like,
I think given how slowly they repair it, I don't think killing them was gonna make a difference.
That's usually my thought, but
yeah, because it would take
who knows?
it would take 56 seconds to like wait, what?
So if we take 3,700 health per risk core is the build cost of a commander.
What's the DPS of a Banshee? 35, something like that?
Well, here's one thing. Stop building Banshees.
Yeah.
And that meant you were building
oh,
nothing.
That's not good.
Yeah.
I think that must have been a mismicro. That must have just been a mistake I made.
Or maybe on wait so that you could degun or something.
Oh, I might have intentionally done it.
Okay.
Yeah, to degun. That might have been it.
Okay. So the Banshees fly over here. They come up here. There's no air scout. There's no target finding. You have spotted the commander previously.
Yeah.
So they just fly over. They fly up here. They wait momentarily. Okay. A scout, and they would have all come in at once. One of the things you see here is half of them haven't even started firing yet. Most of them haven't even started firing yet. And that one's almost dead already. Second thing is commander still can't defend these con turrets and they're building these missile trucks. Would have hit the missile trucks first, the con turrets first, and then hit the commander. And then not only that, you would have been all grouped up to hit the commander all in one go.
Yeah.
So I
I think it
I
still would have been
killed
close.
this
But
Whistler.
yeah, I absolutely think sweeping right, and attacking the con turrets, you would have, like you said, you would have been grouped up. You're also shooting that instead of the commander. That could have been it by
So
itself.
that was intentional. If I don't kill the Whistler, there's no way I. And then
Uh-huh.
I see how quickly they're building. It's like, oh, I just need to focus the commander because I can't keep up with the rate of Whistler building.
Yeah. So if these had been dead, you would have been in a much better position.
Mhm.
But the commander still
So-
could have boosted the Whistlers out. I think in part just didn't have enough.
Yeah.
But
Also, I did the math, and it turns out a nano repairs a fresh commander at about 10 health per second, which is quite a bit more
Yeah.
than I expected.
yeah,
So,
and you were probably shooting that commander for about 30 seconds.
mhm.
Which wouldn't have been quite as much as the con turrets produced. But I think you would have been in a better shape if you'd have waited like a little bit to regroup.
Mhm.
So that you don't just lose one for free. Because that gives the commander extra time to fire. You take, like proportionally, you take a lot more damage. Because these have hardly any health per Banshee. So a commander kills a Banshee and like, what is it? 187, but it's probably towards max range, so it's not the
Yeah.
full, it's not the full damage per second. So it probably takes around 5 seconds to kill a Banshee.
Sounds about right.
Where you're probably a single Banshee is probably gonna speed up killing a commander by more than 5 seconds.
Mhm.
I don't know, it's hard. It would be easier to like play it out, but like if you'd have just built more, but just not stop building them, or if you'd have, what I generally say is just never go for the commander, the factory, because what you see here is when you fight this, you're not only fighting the commander, you're fighting the build power and the factory and everything that comes out of it. Like, he had time to build missile trucks. You come over here, you kill these almost instantly, and then you just sweep around, kill all that, and the entire time you're moving mostly away from his ability to build power. And then it's like you can even split in half. One half goes that way, kills it fairly quickly, and another part goes that way. It's what I tend to advise you do. When you're raiding, you attack towards the base, and you make him spend everything he has defending the base, and that leaves everything else naked and vulnerable. And then you sort of retreat away from the base in all directions, and that's an entire naked area that he can't defend. And then ultimately for him, he's built a bunch of anti-air to keep the base alive, but it never ends because he has to keep the base alive, but you never tried to fight it. You just killed everywhere else where he wasn't able to build anti-air because he had maybe a couple isolated constructors that just don't have time to build an anti-air on their own. Like, that would be in 30 seconds to build that one anti-air on its own, and that's plenty enough time for your Banshees to just come and kill all of those metal extractors. And you couple that with being defensive and just throwing down laser towers with your commander at your base, at this front line. Like, this one's a little more dicey, so maybe you go for something like Dragon's Claw, which has a lower build power. If you look at the build powers here, it takes less than double the time to build something which has, at max range, the same damage per second. Significantly more health though, and about the same range actually, so maybe that's not, so maybe you'd be better off building something like a beamer. But either way, just just drop a bunch of laser towers and try to keep those constructors as alive as possible, or make it cost as much as possible to kill them. Laser towers are sort of guaranteed damage against pawns because of their death explosion, which is quite a significant, especially for the self-destruct. Plus just the fact that they outrange them, so they get a definite amount of time where they get to fire for free before the pawns get into their range. Get in range to fire at them. I think the Dragon's Claw also do a little bit of splash damage, so they'll damage the pawns around them, but I'm not sure. Yeah. But it does make a significant... It is a significant benefit to them that they deal damage in a range. Like, deal like max damage at max range, while the laser towers will be doing half the damage at max range.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think it's going to take 100 times less effort to identify why I lost, because I'm definitely not at this level.
That's alright. Probably want to avoid building laser towers right near the coast as well. Probably want to build them more in the middle still, near all the others, so that they can't pick off isolated laser towers. Yeah.
Yeah, I should have stopped building banshees a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah, you probably have enough at this point to just destroy the mexes. It's really a shame that you're missing like most of the mexes here with the way you're attacking. But yeah.
We need to get a drink real quick, just in case you finish this up sooner than I expect. I'll be back in 30 seconds.
Here, don't even try to fight that. He outnumbers you by such an insane margin. Also, don't walk all the way over there to build the laser tower, because, again, he outnumbers you by such an insane margin. You need all the proximity help you can get. I'm just saying there. All your construction turrets are guarding the air factory. Yeah.
That's bad.
And again, you're going into the base and trying to kill the factory. Don't do that. Definitely don't kill the factory. That's 2050 health. If you, like, per wind generator, you have about 200 health. Given the fact that wind generators also chain, which helps you, you can destroy at least 10 wind generators, probably more. So there's that. Also, you can basically neutralize the factory in much less effort by killing the construction turrets. But overall, what I'd do also is, you've killed all these metal extractors, which means that these construction turrets eventually are, I mean, he still has a healthy amount of metal production, but like, you kill the construction turrets, that's, he's got these ones over there, he can still build anyway, but you've already killed the metal extractors. So you've already turned off half his construction turrets, say. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 times 2.4 is 19.2. So you've taken away almost half his metal production. But if you take out, say, all these as well with your banshees and make sure you get them down, that's a higher priority than killing his construction turrets. Because, and like even here in his base, just go for the metal extractors. Even though they can be built relatively quickly, what you're doing is you're compounding the effect of not having any metal. If he doesn't have any metal, he can't use his wind generators, he can't use his construction turrets. All that energy is going to become excess because there's no metal to spend. And all that construction turret is just going to sit there idle because he can't build anything. Because he has no metal to spend with those construction turrets. So, like, it's a bit like, in this case it's probably still worth it to kill them, because then you can't build air and then you can keep going around with your banshees. And especially if
Aren't
you
they a
kill
lot more
them and the
expensive to
constructor.
replace, too?
Hmm?
Aren't they a lot more expensive to replace too?
Yeah,
the
and
construction
because it's like
turrets?
you kill those mexes and you can just. So I'd probably go for the construction turrets, then the metal extractors. Or maybe the construction turrets, then the constructor, then the mexes, because also like even though that's a smaller portion, like it's easier to kill a larger portion of his build power across the map than say the mexes, and the mexes are already taken care of. But yeah.
Yeah, then this was a big mistake. I should have just left the commander alone.
Yeah, just kill all the metal extractors, and
Yeah.
then just
Yeah.
let the banshees die, basically. That brings you back mostly even. These constructors can just. Honestly, this situation, I wouldn't even build pawns. He has too many army. Just build, I don't know, beamers or laser towers or whatever. And just get everything building that, and just stay alive first. And then you can start rebuilding and expanding. Yeah. This is cool. Though losing the constructors is not.
Yeah.
Yeah. GG.
A second last ditch effort, yeah, but it's GG.
Yeah. Yeah, had you just gone for the mexes in the first place, you would have been a really solid position. You could have probably taken out every single mex he had on the map. Even like fly up here, kill 1, 2. They go there with your first lot, and then the other lot does whatever it does over there, takes out those in the build power, and then the ones you had over there in position could have taken out all of those. And he has 0 mexes. That would have been really powerful. And then if you couple that again, because that's especially good from a situation where you've lost all your army, you couple that with, because you've got no army, you don't have to worry about that. It's much more efficient at that point for you to build laser towers anyway to defend yourself. And so you go, don't worry about army, it's useless because his army is too big. Just build laser towers and then banshees and kill all his mexes, and that's the most efficient way you can deal damage to him. Awesome. Yeah. This is kind of funny, it just takes so long.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that I could catch the comm out with my commander and some pawns, but
Yeah.
yeah, I wasn't. This obviously it didn't work, and I didn't really expect it to, but you never know.
Yeah. Yeah.